welcome to the Gump Report. You never know what you want to get. I have no idea what the episode is. I have no number. I don't know. But I do have a video for you, a mashup, a biggie of Scott Hall, and something personal that has happened for me while at the same time this is going on. Now, I won't lie. If you watch my videos on and off, you know I suffer from depression and anxiety. And I can get triggered by something. And I know lately I've been kind of in a funk because I've been stuck. You know, if you guys have seen, I do animation on another channel. And I kind of got stuck again. It's hard to keep doing videos weekly here, but also do videos weekly there. It can be a little stressful. You're trying to produce good content for wrestling, but if you do another channel for another little bit of your outlet, a little bit of your imagination, a little bit of your a genius, even though I'm not a genius, I'm just saying genius to show whatever gift you got inside you, it can be complicated and it can affect you eventually. And with depression, anxiety, it does get you a little anxious or get you a little depressed. Well, all that this mashup has given me has given me a little bit of a taste of a depression. So, while I was dealing with getting frustrated because I got stuck on my animation, I found out a friend of mine, well, I met him here in this building. He was a handyman for the buildings in this area where I've been living for the last 22 and a half to 23 years. And he just recently passed beyond the veil, as they say in Babylon 5. That's supposed to be rebooted, and I'm scared that this reboot will be crap. And if it's crap, I'm not watching it. But as they say, he did pass. And I didn't think it'd affect me that badly. And I know it hasn't badly affected me. But because of what's been going on lately, because of my frustration, my anxiety, it's kind of piled on top of that. And then I heard what happened with Scott and Big E, and I know I got a little depression. Now, it's nothing major. I don't want to hurt myself, so don't worry. I'm okay. Have I been oversleeping a little bit? Yes. Do I feel like I don't want to do a little bit? Yeah, I don't want to do much. But I learned, and this could be for someone else who has it. And I'm not saying that it's easy. This is a little life lesson to somebody who does suffer from depression. And I'm not saying this would work for you every single time. But in my case, you confronting what the problem is, saying what the problem is, and yes, you're bad to yourself saying, I don't want to do a damn thing. Get up and do your best to do something that you know you still care about, that you love, and admit what the problem is, has helped me. Now, it doesn't always last long, and usually my depression, and it's mild depression with anxiety, it's not extreme. It eventually fades with time. Once I get inspired, or once I say, you know what, screw it, and I go do something else, and then out of the blue, it's gone. Not saying that goes immediately, but for me, this is what happens. So if you want to try something that might help, you say, even if you argue with yourself, not want to do it, anything, do something you love and admit it to people outwardly. Just say, dude, something's really upset me. This has now made me depressed. Either you tell them, hey, talk with me. Spend time with me. That could help. Now, the public service announcement is done. Here's what we got for the Gump Report. Let's go with Scott. Now, I'm not going to admit that I wasn't shocked I heard what happened with Scott. I was. Knowing that Scott was in the hospital on life support, I'm going, what the fuck happened? And then I found out what happened, and it kind of relates to me even more than just my friend Mario. That was his name. I not only have depression and anxiety, I am disabled. I have a condition in my hip called synovial chondromatosis. No, synovial chondromatosis. It is a condition where the hip socket, where it's supposed to have a fluid, like in the joints, there's fluid. You crack your knuckles and everything, that's the fluid. That's where the cracks come from. That's how you can move your body. In my left hip, it isn't there anymore. It's cartilage. My left leg is a permanent straight thing. And the only way to cure it is to have a hip replacement. So that made this even more scary for me. But the thing is, knowing that he fell, and this is what the report was, that Scott Hall, about a little while ago, fell and broke his hip. And he went in to get hip replacement. He got the hip replacement, but there was a complication. As they said, a blood clot had broken free and gave him not one heart attack, 3 heart attacks, back to back to back. And he was in life support. And the information yesterday was that eventually his family had made the final decision that he was to be taken off life support because he wasn't functional. Probably his brain functions were flat. He had no brain activity due to the fact of his heart attacks, and he passed away. Passed beyond the veil. That one was a big one. That one, that hit me hard. I'm like, oh man. I used to love Scott. I loved Reza Ramon. I didn't know at first that he wasn't Spanish. Look, I'm half Spanish. Black Spanish. Well, black, mixed black, possibly Native American, Chinese, and Puerto Rican Spanish. I thought he was Spanish. I didn't know he wasn't. And he did his character very well. When he went to WCW, whenever I could see it, because I've always said, during the time of the 1990s, going into the early 2000s, I could not watch wrestling. 1, I was going to technical college. 2, I had gotten a job that took majority of my time. And 3, I got married and then had a child. All that in that same decade between, well, I got married in 1995, had a son in 1997, and then my wife at the time, who left because of separation, I didn't watch any wrestling, barely at all. I saw maybe once, maybe for 5 or 10 minutes every 3 weeks to every month or so, for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. If I was able to flip the channel, if I could even do that. So I barely watched what happened with the NWO. I barely watched what happened with the Outsiders. I barely watched a Kevin Nash, the Diesel with the Razor Ramon, along with X-Pac, who was at the time the 1-2-3 Kid. I didn't see them barely at all, to not until after the 2000s had already passed, and I went back to watching wrestling again, and then I learned what happened, and then what happened with DX. And it was a lot to take, knowing that now he straightened his life out. He used to be a heavy drinker, and he learned his lesson. He worked it out. He was really having a better life than he had in decades. And now he's gone. Now you could say, well, it's better that it happened like this than him dying to alcohol, his liver dying on him. And I can say, honestly, I knew 2 guys, both literally drank themselves to death. One drank himself to death because his wife died, and he personally said openly to everyone, like I said in the early parts of this video, if you have any depression, why don't you talk with people? Just not stay, I don't want to do anything, just go do what you love, but then if you feel like it's bad, just go to someone and say, look, I need to talk. I got this. Help. He literally drank himself to death. He literally openly said, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to drink until I die because I want to join my wife. He literally said that openly to several people. I wasn't there at the time. It was after this situation with with my disability, and then going for workman's comp, and then finally becoming disabled through Social Security. And another one literally broke up with his wife, cheated on his wife, wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't with her. He drank himself literally to death, and he told me personally, me personally, that he was told by the doctor at one point, hey, you're done. Stop drinking or you're going to die. Because he finally reached the point, his liver just was done. And he literally told me, and I said, what's wrong with you, sick? He said, yeah, my doctor told me, hey, it's time, you can't drink no more. He said he stopped drinking, he was getting himself straight, and that was also while I was still unable to work. But when I finally went back to work after like about 2 years to visit, he was dead. So it's not fun knowing people die from that kind of stuff. So knowing that he died this way is not something I'm happy, but knowing he didn't die in agony of cirrhosis of the liver. And I've even known another person who died of that, but I wasn't there when she died. And that was Elizabeth Pena, an actual actress who worked in Beverly Hills. Well, no, not Beverly Hills. She worked in Down and Out in Beverly Hills, and she worked in Rush Hour. She worked in Rush Hour. I knew her as a child. I knew her when I was growing up, and she died of cirrhosis of the liver as well. So I understand completely that people would rather see someone die like this because of something unrelated to the liver dying on them. So I understand that. But knowing that he's gone hurts after he straightened his life out so much. But this is what we got. Now, going from that to something that's a little more positive, but still is a little of a fear. Biggie. Oh my gosh. I heard what happened. And I went and checked out SmackDown when he was with Holland, who did the overhead belly-to-belly suplex on the concrete with the mat. And I've always told you guys, mats are this thick. Look where my hand is, this thick. And there's nothing but concrete under it. Anything can go wrong and you can get hurt. And Holland literally could not get enough of a rotation on him, and he dumped him straight on his head. And when he did that, he did not move. He had to be taken out in the stretcher. He was finished. Now, he done 2 videos on Twitter, one saying that he found out he broke his neck, and then when they did a second diagnosis, because they did the preliminary, and then the second diagnosis said his C1 and C6 had been fractured. He still has motion. He still has feeling in his fingers. He has no tendon damage, no muscle damage, that he'll be all right. Now, this is what he said. But still knowing that 2 discs in his back and the spinal cord is perfectly fine have been fractured. That means easily between 6 to 9 months of not being able to wrestle and possibly be in a bed for at least 3 of those 6 to 9 months. There's a good possibility he'll be in traction in the bed to allow those fractures to heal, because you can't move. You're going to have to be in traction possibly. I think he might be in a traction because he'll be having a neck brace, but it's a possibility he won't be able to get up for at least a good month or 2. Easily not be allowed to walk. Go to the toilet in the bed. Go pee and take a dump in the bed, possibly for a month or 2, where he cannot move, possibly. I could be wrong. He may be allowed to get up and walk around when his extremities, well, not when the extremities, because he does have feeling, but essentially, to allow the fractures to heal properly, they're going to probably want him not to move, to stay stationary as he is, and maybe at least 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months to stay stationary on a bed until it heals. Does this fill me with a lot of comfort that he didn't break his neck completely? Yes. He fractured 2 discs in his neck. No spinal column damage. No loss of feeling in his hands and other extremities. No tendon damage. No muscle damage. He looked fine. But now here's the question of what's going to happen to him after that. We have many people who have gotten neck damage and has ended up losing years on their career now. This could have shortened his career by a good 10 or 15 years. You don't know. Edge has had neck damage. There's a lot of people who have gone through this. Mr. Wonderful has had neck damage. Bryan Danielson has had neck problems. When it came to Edge, he's got neck problems. We've had a lot of people who have neck problems that their careers have been shortened because of these types of things. And they never come back normal. They never do. 100%, they're always a bit less. Bryan Danielson has had neck problems. No, he's never broken his neck, but he's had concussion and neck problems. Kurt Angle had broken his neck twice. Now, the first time was during the Olympics, and he broke it then. But then he never really got it corrected. And then he broke it again. And now, even though he's doing pretty well, he's going to suffer through for the rest of his life. Especially that he has plates in his neck. Stone Cold Steve Austin, who easily... Now, I know I could do a video on Stone Cold now, but I don't want to do it. I'll probably do it on a separate video if you ask for it. But he's broken his neck. A lot of people broken their neck, and Lita has broken her neck. Luckily, when it came to Lita, she didn't stay in the ring that long. But so many people who've broken their neck in so many cases have never been 100% the same. Now, Big E could be fine for the rest of his life with fractures in his neck that will eventually heal. Or he'll never be right, and he'll have to change his style to compensate for that. Because Big E diving out of the ring, doing those shoulder blocks, may never be done anymore. You never know. He may not be able to do shoulder blocks jumping out of the ring like he usually do, where I was terrified all the time, seeing that one of these days he could break his clavicle, he could rip his shoulder. Now with a broken neck, and he comes back from it, he may not do that anymore. His style may be completely different when he comes back. Because once he comes, this is what I believe will be the process. He will spend the next 6 to 8 months, maybe 9, after being in bed for maybe 2-3 months. They'll check him. They'll see that he's recovering all right. And he will not do any heavy exercising, no heavy lifting or anything. He'll be probably allowed to exercise, but he has to be careful. Maybe within 2 months, he'll be allowed to do some strenuous, not total strenuous exercises that will mess with his neck, but at least he'll be given orders that you're allowed to do some weights, but not heavy. By maybe 7 to 8 months, he'll be maybe allowed to go back to doing heavy weights again, because by this time, all the big titty muscle he got, it's going to go away. He is not going to be allowed to do any heavy exercising. There's no way he can do it. There is no way. With his broken neck like that, he can't do anything that's going to put strain on his neck as he's trying to lift and brace himself. He can't. So he's going to have to wait a few months before he can really do any strenuous, heavy lifting to get his body back in shape. And after he gets his body in shape, he's going to have to go to the ring, and then he's going to have to start working, exercising, getting back into the groove so he can get that ring rust off. And while doing that, as the doctors and WWE will be examining him, he's going to have to notice how his body is going to act. Because guys, you think when you break your neck or you tear something, you break something, you can just do the same moves you can. No, you got to find out what you can do, not what you are going to go back to doing. It counts on how your body responds to certain movements. Can he take a bump, like fall back and brace himself when he takes a bump? Can he take it through the disc in his neck that had been fractured? Will he have any problems with that? Will something begin to malfunction because of it? Will he have tremors in his hands? Will he be able to feel his fingers? I can tell you 100% he's going to go through all that before he's allowed back in the ring. He's going to have to show that he can function. He's going to have to go and take bumps. And some of them will be light to medium bumps to make sure that he's doing well. To see if he's not showing any signs of tremors in the hands. And I know that more personally than anything because I keep having stress in the back of my shoulders. For me, because of how I lay in my bed, due to the fact of my leg, as I said, I don't lay right. Sometimes I lay awkwardly. And I have strain in the back of my shoulder blades. And the muscles of my shoulders are messed with the muscles in my neck. I have nothing out of place, I don't believe. I'm fine as long as I try to correct myself. But sometimes I feel strain in my neck because of the muscles of my shoulders being out of whack due to the fact I don't lay in my bed properly all the time because of my hip. So I can understand. I understand a lot about everybody. But you get my point. We're not going to know how big he's going to act when he comes back. I'll be glad that he'll be able to walk. I'll be glad he'll be able to live. I'll be glad that if he finds a woman he loves and marries her and has a kid, or not marry her and has a kid, they can lift his kid up, love his kid, and live happily. But I also want to see him in the ring. And even though I don't watch WWE much anymore other than the pay-per-views, does not mean I don't want to see him there and know that he is there, or anywhere for that matter, knowing full well that people on the roster love his ass. Tom Holland had gone to the hospital to check on him because I don't want to make this clear. And I know a lot of people want to say Holland shouldn't wrestle anymore. This is not about Holland not wrestling. Things like this happen. There was a wrestler back in Impact Wrestling, TNA at the time, and he fought against Zema Ion, DJZ, where DJZ did a moonsault. He thought it was going to land ahead of him so it can make him fall back. He didn't. He landed on his head. His knee hit the guy's head straight. Broke his neck. He landed and he was done. He had a freaking broken neck where he almost died. He went like this. The entire spinal column got compressed heavily and broke at least 1 or 2 or maybe 3 discs in his neck. But he was able to come back, and I believe he's still wrestling. But freak accidents happen. This is still wrestling. Everyone thinks it's fake. You can still get hurt in wrestling. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Even then, you can still get hurt. Wrestling is not an easy sport. Even if it's staged, people still get hurt. And freak accidents happen. Look at wrestling in Japan. I saw once a female wrestler who was grabbed by another female wrestler, and she was supposed to do a suplex, and she decided she wanted to do like a muscle buster. No, not muscle buster. What was it? A muscle buster. She actually wanted to try and do a muscle buster suplex, but she landed wrong and completely compressed the woman. She made her collapse her entire chest like this, and they literally, when it was over, rubbing her stomach, her abdomen, because she had no feeling. She literally was compressed on herself. That's how hard she was crushed by the suplex that went botched. She botched her suplex, and it was almost like a muscle buster where she got so badly compressed. Anything could happen. Anything. And I'm not saying that if someone like a Nia Jax, who has been known to be so sloppy in the ring that should not wrestle. Tom Holland, I've seen him before whenever I have seen SmackDown. And NXT was there too. He's not a bad wrestler. But things like that do happen. Errors happen. Not on purpose. I'm just saying. And I hope you enjoyed this Gump report. Please give me a comment below. Oh, I exercise my dinner. Does not mean my depression's, a little bit of my depression's up. But it's there. So if you do see it and you worry about me, don't worry. I'm okay. I'm not wanting to kill myself. I'm not going to want to say I'm not going to eat or nothing. I'm all right. Do I feel a little bit sad? Yeah, like I don't want to do much. Yeah, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I'm doing. And I hope this public service announcement helps you. That sounds like public service, Ross. I'm not. The public service announcement helps. Peace.